All right, it's time for world politics, and of course, a lot is going on in the political lane. I'm going to bring on my good friends, and we're going to talk about a number of these things, including the possibility of a VP candidate that was being floated by Mr. Trump. And I'd love to hear Adam's thoughts around this, but I did hear in some of the news that I was looking at that there is some possibility of, let's say, Tucker Carlson for vice president, because I saw that, and apparently the former president, Mr. Trump, was saying that he is got a lot of common sense and that he might be a great vice presidential candidate. And of course, a number of folks were watching the debate. Yours truly was watching the debate as well on yesterday and saw a number of things, including there being some pushbacks on even the whole notion of where the fentanyl is coming from. And as I mentioned on World Edition, and we were talking about this briefly beforehand, Vivek Ramaswamy was in the news, and it was definitely trying to play to certain people and all along those lines. So one of the things that he was saying was that he would definitely secure the border and build that wall down there. But he was also saying that he would build a wall up there in Canada as well, because according to him, there's fentanyl coming from Canada as well. So it's not just coming from the Mexican border, but it was his claim that it was coming from Canada also. So he wants to build a wall, apparently maybe two walls, a wall against Canada and a wall against Mexico, and all in that space. So that was one of the things that was being talked about in that debate. And of course, there was a whole conversation around TikTok and whether Nikki Haley's daughter should have been put on blast because of her own TikToks and things that she's been doing in that social media space and all along those lines. And of course, the whole conversation around heels came up as well. And then some people were saying that even Tim Scott was playing to the Christian base. And of course, it was interesting hearing some of their various views on the whole notion of being pro-life and a number of other issues as well. So I'm going to bring up my esteemed panel, see what they've got to say about a number of these issues and all along those lines. So are you ready as you are running for president for definitely maybe even Trump to have the Trump Carlson ticket and all along those lines? Because that was something I was reading where he was floating that idea around how serious he was or how unserious he was. Only things will be found out in the due time. But are you ready for the Trump Carlson ticket? And would that be a good ticket in your mind? And did you sit up and watch the debate?
I did sit and watch the debate with much dismay, because none of these candidates have a chance at the nomination. This is a waste of time. It's almost like entertainment more than it is politics. Like I said, none of these candidates have a chance at winning the nomination. Trump is going to win the nomination. And if he wants to pick a VP, he should pick me instead of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is a TV personality. Now, I have nothing against him, but he has no political experience. He obviously should not be the vice president, but it's not going to matter who the vice president is. This is going to be about Trump and a referendum on Trump, and he's going to beat Joe Biden, and we will see a Trump administration in 2024.
So we're going to see the Trump administration come back. It's going to be a repeat, is according to what Adam is saying. So we're going to see him be the first one since Grover Cleveland to win, then lose, then win again. So that is what we are thinking is going to happen, and all in that space. You know, a lot of people are thinking that Nikki Haley did a great job and maybe she could be the vice president, but we have a woman that is involved in our organization that might even be smarter than Nikki Haley. So we're going to bring in one of the founders of this network, that being Kim Calhoun, and seeing if she's ready to challenge Nikki Haley. You just heard Adam say that none of these five really need to be bothering in these debates. I understand there's going to be another debate coming up. I want to say that is in the Deep South, if I'm remembering correctly, and all in that space. But there are some folks that are saying that neither Tim Scott nor Chris Christie did themselves any favors, and that they will probably be dropping out. So it might only be the three. And there is some speculation that we might even actually see Trump in one of these debates, and then even though many people are saying he's got such a sizable lead, why even bother showing up if it's going to be Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, and definitely the DeSantis, and all along those lines. But I'm just wondering your thoughts as to whether you are ready to be jumping in the race as president or maybe even vice president. Because when I saw this notion of Tucker Carlson, hey, you got one TV personality, you're a TV personality as well. So maybe it needs to be Vice President Kim Calhoun. So what is our thoughts around this?
I think I have more integrity than Tucker does. I don't think anyone is worth my time to run as vice president for. I think that they are all a disgrace, just like Adam has said. I don't think Trump should be our next candidate or Biden. I hope that somehow or another we get a bulldozer and brush them out. But we need some fresh people running for president. We don't need a bunch of people in the White House turning it into a sick or retirement home. And we just need to build on integrity and the things that we need to be doing to unite, not just our own country, because we are so divided. We need to start uniting the leaders of the world. We need to stop these wars. We need to sit down and figure out how to get everybody united and working together, even China, because I think we can get even China in and working with us, whether we trust them or not. We just need to start working with them. But I wouldn't be vice president for any of these people running for president. And I'm going to mention something. I think the swing vote is going to be the Federal Reserve next year based on how they manage the interest rates, because everybody blames or credits the president. So I think the biggest swing vote is going to be what the Federal Reserve does and how the economy swings up and down.
Oh, well, I'm getting ready to bring in our other panelists, that being Sasha Starr. And all along those lines, the other thing that happened as well was that Vivek Ramaswamy, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this notion of a Canadian wall. But before we get to that idea, he actually called out the president, the current president, because he basically said that it is basically like a whole notion of this being a falsehood, that Mr. Biden is going to run and they were going to have a Biden-Trump rematch, because he is thinking that the Democrats, because of some of the things that are going on with Biden and his health, will not be having the notion of even running him. And he said, and one of his quotes at the end was, whether it's Michelle Obama or whether it's Gavin Newsom, the Democratic Party needs to stop this facade of this notion of they're going to run Mr. Biden. So I was wondering your thoughts around this, because he definitely came out there with this notion that there might be another candidate coming out, and not a third party candidate, but a candidate that will run because of Biden's health issues and some of the other things that are going on, including his declining popularity and all in that space. So are we 100% sure, Sasha, that Biden is going to be the candidate for the Democrats?
Only if Republicans will nominate Trump, only in this case. If it will be anybody but Trump, of course, Biden will not run. And I think he said many years ago, even before he was elected president, he said that he's a one-time president, just one-term president, and he's not going to run for second term. However, because Trump is doing so well, and most likely he will be nominated, depends on his lawsuit, though. I'm not sure how that will affect him one way or another. I guess Adam knows better as a lawyer. It's not going to help him with his $500 bet, though. But still, one thing, you see, Adam, you have two hurdles to overcome. Number one, he has to be, of course, pronounced nominee for presidential power. Second of all, the lawsuits have to be somehow dealt with. And the third, he still has to win the president election against Biden. With all that on the line, I think if you pay me tomorrow, I say I'll be very liberal with you. Say $350, and we're okay with your bet. So you save $150. So, I mean, if you're interested, right?
once my check to Mr. Putin clears, I'm going to be happy to pay you $350. But look, here's the thing. Now, first of all, Kim's obvious prejudice against the elderly is very appalling. I want to tell the elderly right now, you still have a purpose. But besides that,
I do.
Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic Party nominee. It's too late to get somebody else in there. Trump is going to be the Republican Party nominee. These 5 candidates are a disgrace. They offer no new ideas. It's like political theater. As far as the charges against Trump, even if he's found guilty on all counts, he's not going to be barred from running for the presidency. And Trump will win the presidency over Biden because Trump's policies on the economy, on the border, on inflation, on taxes, on corporate taxes, lowest Hispanic and African American unemployment rate are so much better than under Biden. The middle class is suffering under Biden and inflation. Trump will win the presidency. And when he does, something special is going to happen. Because last night, I couldn't sleep last night because of the insults against Russia that these 5 candidates made. Trump is going to establish a bridge to Russia where we partner with Moscow in making a new world order that makes us more safe, more stable, and more peaceful.
There is one danger, though, that if indeed you're right, and you will win bad, and Trump will become president of the United States, guess what? Putin may no longer be there. So he will have to make a peace.
That would be such a tragedy.
Putin. It will be a tragedy, no doubts about that. But remember,
who would replace Putin?
Who will replace? It's a good question. There are enough bandits in Russia to replace Putin. There is a lineup will be to replace him. So don't worry about that. Russia is full of bandits and gangsters, and just name it. That's more than enough to elect one person to replace Putin. He will be younger, for one thing. He will be more talented. He will be more aggressive than Putin. Putin, you see, Putin, if he would be all right, he just got a little piece, 20%, 22% of Ukraine. Stop right there and go right into Poland and Baltic republics and Belarus. Belarus is his already anyway. And just do something. You see, he's so old and lazy and
that is very rude.
It is rude, but I agree.
This discrimination against the elderly on this show.
No, I hear what you say about the elderly, but I think I may have come up with a great idea, and I want to hear what Adam, as the youngest member, thinks of this idea. But we are having some trials that are going on. There are the trials that you just alluded to that are dealing with Trump. I understand that there is some impeachment proceedings that are going on, even in the Biden case, and all along those lines. I think that they have summoned the son and some other people, and of course we know that on the other side, Ivanka has been making some testimonies and all of that in the fraud case. So with all of these legal problems that are mounting for both candidates, this is my radical idea. I'm not saying that we need to do this 100% because some people might be offended by what I'm suggesting and all along those lines. But, there was the Hamilton and Burr case that existed historically and everything. So, Sasha, what do you think we sit about in the middle of D.C. and we just do the old-fashioned duel and all along those lines? So I'm thinking that might be the way to solve this political differences. That's what they did in the days of Hamilton and Burr, and maybe we would have a Biden and Trump duel. So what is y'all thoughts around this? Is it time for it just to be a Trump-Biden duel the old-fashioned way?
It's not. It's not just that they're both old and for different reasons. They're just. It's very difficult to apply common sense. Why this old men who are they're dying pretty soon, right? So why are they spending their time and talent on this running for the office? What are they going to do in the office? Adam is relying on some wonderful programs that Trump has. He never had program. He never had it in 2016. He didn't have one in 2020. And he doesn't have one now. All he's talking about that election was stolen. That's all his program is. And all his so-called nuclear electorate, the base. Okay, here's a base. All they care is for him to be nominated and beat Biden and to say, I told you so, the election was stolen. Now here's a real election and he beat Biden and everything is great. What is his program? He cannot formulate program. He has a mind of a third grader. How is a third grader can formulate
I
any
mean,
program? I mean, it's not just my opinion. There are
this,
other.
I know.
this heresy that's going on here. I mean, if you did this in
I heard
Russia,
it.
I mean,
I heard that today.
Well, speaking of that and everything, hey, Adam, just really quickly, I mentioned it earlier, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, and definitely Sasha's as well. We've been talking, and it did come up several times about what's going on our southern border and the fentanyl that is coming across the southern border. Now, the argument that Ramaswamy and others made is that it's not just coming across from Mexico, but it is also coming across from Canada, and that it is actually being manufactured out of China. So how much of what he was saying is factual, and are you worried about the notion of securing a border to the north as well? Because apparently he was saying that we needed not just a southern border, but a northern border as well that would have a wall. So is the fentanyl coming from both sides, or is it just coming from one side, and do we need to stop people like Sasha from coming across the border and all in that space?
Ramaswamy is an idiot. He's a loudmouth. And he's wrong. We don't need a border with Canada at all. Okay? We need a border with Mexico, and we need to give amnesty to illegal immigrants who are already here in the United States in an act of compassion, who have families, who are trying to live the American dream. So we need to give them a chance to do that and not deport them. So border security plus amnesty. And when it comes to Trump, I want to speak directly to suburban women and independents. Grow up, get over your emotions, because the reason that you voted for Biden in 2020 is because you didn't like Trump's temperament. But now you're paying the price at the gas pump. You're paying the price in the grocery store. You're paying the price because of inflation. And when it comes down to choosing between Trump and Biden, it's almost like choosing between Charles Manson and Ted Bundy. You got to pick somebody. And when you compare the two, Trump, reluctantly, is a better choice. And I'll tell you this. I remember in 1989 when I was in New York City, and Mikhail Gorbachev got out of his limousine, and he walked down the streets of New York and shook everyone's hand in a great moment of unification with the United States. We need to build an alliance with Russia. Trump's going to help us do that. We're going to have lower taxes, a stronger middle class, and a more peaceful nation.
Hey, Adam, since you're speaking to the women, and
I'm going to have $500.
Just a sec. Listen, Adam. In 1989 through 1991, maybe a year or two later, Russia was at its weakest point in generations. You know that, right? So therefore, it was very easy for Reagan and then Bush Senior to make some kind of if not a deal, there was couldn't be done a deal with Russia because Russia would agree to any deal, whatever you offer. Okay, you want to try this? Yes, we agree. Oh, you want to try this as well? We agree. They would agree to anything. So now, since US failed to fixate the historic victory of the United States and the West in the Cold War, it was an incredible victory, and Ronald Reagan contributed a lot to that, and many others. So it was just, okay, so it's there. Okay, so let's go. Okay, let's try this or that. It had to be completely new world order established. Okay, here, guys. Okay, the Cold War is over. You're done your history. Here's what's going to happen today. We are going to rule the world with our allies. You lost. You're a losing party. You have to, first of all, give up all your nuclear arsenal. You have to agree to certain concessions here and there and so on. Right, for next 100 years, you are not allowed to attack anybody or so on. You could extract at that time a lot of things from Russia. They would agree. For, I don't know, $500 million probably, they would go along with everything. Today, Russia, it's not only Russia became very powerful military state, they have a coalition of all these bad actors like China, like North Korea, like Iran, and many others who are not openly there, like even India. India doesn't say that they're friends with Russia. They're not saying that they're friends with the United States either. They are there to buy cheap oil from Russia, to use the situation to their advantage and so on. And now you're talking about BRICS country. Now, if BRICS country will have their way, United dollar is finished. It's no longer reserve currency. And if that's the case, Adam, United States is finished. It's no longer a country. It's nothing. Don't forget about your south border or north border or no borders. It doesn't matter. You've done.
And
So
we
in
know
order,
who runs BRICS, right, Sasha? We know who's in charge of BRICS.
no, of course, the only idea is of BRICS. Look, how you could put some common denominator between such a diverse and faraway countries like here is Russia, here is Brazil, here is South Africa. It's a madness, but there is an anti-American agenda. That's all and the only point what unites BRICS, and Putin is working on this project since 2007 when he had his speech and the Munich international conference, and he had his anti-Western speech, and that was a beginning, a harbinger of things to come. So in this situation, of course, neither Trump nor Biden, they cannot lead U.S. You need a very, very special talent, much younger, much more focused, understanding of the situation, international situation in the world, what are the threats for the United States and how to deal with it, and show it's still not late, because today still America is by far the strongest country, army in the world. It's still not late, but the time is running out. And the more Russia, Iran, and other actors becoming successful at little things. For example, do you know that American servicemen, 40 of them were attacked and wounded in these Hezbollah attacks, northern Israel? 40. I don't think that anybody was wounded critically, but they're suffering. For what? This carrier groups that the United States sent, they're like a sitting ducks. I just read today that Russia sent very powerful missiles. They can hit these ships. They're sitting ducks. They're sitting, okay, if these missiles will not do, the other missiles will do. Then you will bring even more powerful missiles, so on. So it's just a matter of time until they will be hit. In the meantime, U.S.
Sasha, you said that there hadn't been a response, but it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I do think that we actually launched an attack on Syria because of those Hezbollah attacks and all along those lines. So I think that we have actually responded with a military attack, and there are some people that are concerned that we might be pulling ourselves further into a deeper war and all in that space. But there was a response to that attack from my understanding. But if I'm wrong and I'm not finding those facts correctly, then please correct me and we'll let the folks know as well.
Well, it doesn't surprise me in the least. The U.S. is on the vanguard of attacking. Let's go back to the 70s when they just deposed the Ayatollah and put in the Shah. Let's go to Iraq, the Second War, when they just took out Saddam Hussein, who ultimately was hanged. Let's talk about Vietnam, when we raped women, killed children. I mean, the U.S. has no moral superiority. And as far as North Korea goes, I will tell you, they have free education, free housing in North Korea, and free healthcare. Why is Russia anti-West, anti-American? Because we've been mean to them for years. We've treated them like a pariah for years. Why wouldn't they be?
By doing what? Exactly.
Well, look at NATO expansion. And I keep going back to this. Nobody wants to talk about that. So my question to you, Sasha, is this. If we could build a more stable and productive relationship with Russia, how do you think we could do that? Because I'm not sure how to do that. So how do you think that could happen?
Good question. First of all, you have to make up your mind that that's exactly what you want to do. And I'm not sure that US is there. You are there, but not United States. So that makes you illegal.
Well, I don't like our foreign policy.
Okay. Uh, First of all, I think the most important thing is somehow disengage Russia from China or China from Russia, one way or another. Because today they are acting together, and Russia is very much in the front line and China is behind. And it's very scary because China is almost like, okay, we are not fighting, we are not attacking anybody, but they are there and carefully watching. And they are supplying Russia with all kind of the weapons and so on, either directly or through North Korea, but it doesn't matter. They're supplying. And they're supplying all kind of the electronics and even spare parts for their, their aviation. Russia, they're using Airbuses and Boeings, and right now, since embargo, they're falling apart and nobody can service them. So they're buying some used spare parts, or sometimes they're just taking apart one liner and to fit the parts of that one to another one which is still flying, and another few months and they will all fall apart. So the Russia is in a critical situation right now, and they know it. However, they're playing a card that U.S. is even in more critical situation than Russia, because Russia still has unused Trump card. It's not Trump, it's China, okay? And United States seems to me that whatever they have, they already put on the front line in Middle East, and they even don't have enough weapons to supply Ukraine. So one of the reasons, it's not strategic reason or some other clever reason or so on. Sometimes they're not supplying Ukraine with weapons because they simply don't have these weapons. They have to be still produced. And although American factories now, all this so-called complex to produce arms, they're working 7/24. They're working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They're doing fantastic jobs. Their profits are going through the roof, which is one actually thing that you shouldn't forget about when the U.S. supplying weapons to other countries, including Ukraine, by the way. The American doing fantastic business. There is a lot of new jobs opened in all those factories, and the salaries there are extraordinary. Okay, so answering to your question, I have to understand, and I'm open to suggestions, how to make peace with Russia when Russia denies Ukraine even right to exist. Simply, the country is, how Putin put it, it's an artificial entity that was created by Lenin in 1920 or so, and that entity has to go. There's simply no place in this world for them. Maybe in a Mars or Jupiter, maybe they can do something there. But in this world, there is no place for entity by the name Ukraine. So how you go? You have to either agree to this formula. So then you probably can make some peace with Putin. Why not? But you have to agree to this formula.
Interesting thoughts and everything. I want to come back to something you said earlier, Adam, and get off the definitely may come back to some of the other world stuff as well. But you mentioned the suburban women and that suburban voice and everything. And one thing that I have seen in the election, some people are saying that it is the Democratic key to victory, and some people may agree or disagree. But the Dobbs decision was recently made, and now a lot of the states are actually going in the direction of giving abortion access. We saw that in Ohio. We saw that in a number of other states as well. So I'm just wondering your thoughts. Is this going to be a pivotal issue in the elections? Because I do think a number of suburban women are actually looking and are going more the pro-choice side than the pro-life side, even though all of the Republican candidates came out pro-life. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, and even Sasha's and Kim as our one woman representative here on this particular show and everything in that space, as to whether this is going to be a pivotal issue in our national politics.
Well, in 2020, suburban women, not surprisingly, were a disappointment. Far too emotional, focusing on Trump's temperament and a single issue. But I think that's going to change in 2024 because money trumps social issues. The middle class has been hit very hard. Inflation has affected them terribly. I still pay $4 for gas. They're going to realize that they were better off under Trump than under Biden. So I don't necessarily think Trump will win suburban women, but I think he will lose by a much narrower margin. And I think independents are going to go towards Trump for the same reason. When they compare the two, they were doing better under Trump before COVID than under Biden. I also think there's an intangible factor. Biden just looks so old. He looks so incompetent. And people, when they look at a president, they want to look up to a president and think that the president is, I don't know, someone who can be a leader, someone who's, different than they are, special, elite. And I think that's going to go against Biden too, especially when, unlike 2020, he has to run a traditional campaign rather than being able to campaign online due to COVID.
Kim, what's your thoughts around that? Because like I said, that's an issue that a lot of people are looking at, is this notion of where women are going to fall in their voting. And I do agree with Adam that some of it will be around pocketbook issues, but there are a lot of women that were not pleased with the Roe versus Wade, the Dobbs decision, and that does look like they are voting more on the side of wanting more of their rights being protected and all along those lines. But I just wondering, as like I said, you are the sole women representative. I did invite Kelly and some others to the show and everything. But what is your take on this issue? And do you think that some of your friends that might be liberal or conservative might be looking at that as a key issue, that there might be one that they focus on?
Well, Mark, I believe that it's a divided issue. And the reason is because of religion. Many people vote based on their religious, theories. And I disagree with that. I disagree with, the state and religion doing laws together. I think it needs to be separated. But all of this abortion BS, nobody's taking care of the babies after they're born. Yeah, okay, go ahead and prove at 22 weeks that, they're a living, breathing entity, but you're not taxing them, okay? Or you can't get a tax deduction for them at 22 weeks. So personally, I don't think it should have anything, men, first off, should have no say-so over any woman's body. They shouldn't be chaining them to beds and arresting them for having abortions or going to other states and having abortions. That's another problem I have with the United States. If I were president, the first thing I would do is unite the laws, and we would get rid of this state and church bullshit. Excuse my language. It's got to end. Okay. And if you're going to take care of the children after they're born, then by all means, force women to have children when they don't want to have them. But currently today, we have over 24, listen to this, 24 million children that are abused and part of fatality home lifestyles. They are not fed. They are not clothed. They are abused. Okay? And nobody's helping them. No one. Yet we got to force women to have more babies that don't want them. Now, I will say this. I have met a few women in my career who had children without the male ever stepping forward to help them. And they did an awesome job raising these children. Fabulous job. Somehow their family helped them out a little bit. But I, just spoke with a woman the other day. I just respect the world out of her. The man didn't step up to the plate. And maybe she's lucky he didn't. Maybe he was a horrible person anyway. Well, we know that. And she raised that child on her own. But a lot of women aren't going to do that. And they're going to put those children's lives in more danger and cost our country more money than what we spend if we go ahead and let a woman have that choice. Now, I don't think it should be used as a means for birth control and you have abortion after abortion after abortion. I don't think so. And I think the pill, the abortion pill, I think just go ahead and issue that. And if women want to take it, let them take it. It's a woman's choice. And I think that, unfortunately, these are not going to be what decides the president. I will get back to your answer. I don't think these issues will decide the president. What I think will decide the president is the economy next year. If the economy gets better, if the interest rates get lower, and we, work a little bit where students that are graduating have a better means to a lifestyle other than that heavy student loan debt that they have to carry on their backs and can't get, mortgages or anything. I think whoever fixes that, and if they fix that next year, that's going to swing the vote in that person's direction.
Hey, Adam, just really quickly, and I was actually going to direct it back to you and definitely hear from Sasha as well. That was actually something that I heard, I think, both from Vivek and Tim Scott, was what Kim just alluded to, which is that if we're going to protect the women's, if we're going to protect the baby, then we also have to protect the life even as they go into adulthood. Because I did hear a couple of the Republican candidates state that notion of this fact that you just can't protect the baby's life, but you also have to make sure that they are taken care of until they are adults and are able to take care of themselves. And I did hear at least 2 or 3 of the candidates mention that within their statements. But what is your thoughts around that? Because that is another thing that I think comes down to a pocketbook issue. Where are we going to make sure that they have adequate schooling, adequate care, adequate food, and all of that until they are able to get it on their own?
Well, certainly we would agree that that's a moral imperative. But, I have a message for women out there, especially young women. Stop having sex. Focus on your education. Focus on your financial stability. Forget relationships when you're 19 or 20. And God forbid, if you're going to have sex, use contraception. Be responsible. You don't see these problems in Russia. You don't see these problems in other countries because citizens are far more responsible and mindful. The moral decay in this country is a disgrace.
Adam, may I just add something? That in many cases, sex actually can lead to a financial stability and more. Would you agree?
Then do it responsibly.
Okay, that's a good one.
I agree.
I tell my college students all the time, enough with the sex and the relationships. Focus on getting a high grade point average, getting into graduate school, getting a good job, and then meeting someone and getting into a relationship, getting married. All this sex when you're 16, 17, no contraception, abortions. It's
20, 21, 22, 23. Wait till you're 26.
Well, speaking of that and everything, I definitely have to push back on something that you're saying slightly because even to what Sasha said, hold on a second, even to what Sasha said, there are a number of people. We know the incident that happened with Jeffrey Epstein and that whole island and everything. And there was a recent news story coming out of Boston, Massachusetts, where apparently, there are sex workers out there that are specifically, I guess, targeting some of the political elite, and who knows who's in their black book. Did we ever find out the madam's black book and who might have been in that black book? But there are a number of political leaders and others that are apparently part of this brothel ring that is coming out of Massachusetts. So is this something that we are concerned about? And are we going to see some high names come out of this case? Because it just came out recently, I think in the last 2 days and everything, that there's a major brothel ring that is coming out of Boston. And there are some names on that book that who knows who those people are.
Well, Adam, I would like to actually make your situation much more preferable and lighter. Speaking about suburban women voters, guess what? Today, Trump, at his age, he is not capable to rape anybody. So he's not as dangerous as he's perceived in his younger years. Well, unless he'll use some special special sex toys. But if not, trust me, he's just not there. And so that actually makes him a viable candidate. So actually, the boss himself, Biden, but Biden, according to what we know about him, he never raped anybody. At least that's what we know. Now, Trump, different category, but still. So I think Trump can be considered for suburban women. There's nothing to fear.
Well, suburban women, I think, are going to vote with their pocketbooks this year. And, but, when I was thinking when this discussion was happening about young people, sex, not using contraception, the moral decay of the United States, I was thinking about the Russian national anthem. And when I go on YouTube and I hear the Russian national anthem, the citizens stand for it with such pride and such joy. And in the United States, they kneel. That's the difference. I don't like the way this country has gone. As much as Russia has engaged in atrocities, certainly, their citizens are elite. They're smart.
They are.
They love their country. In the United States, it's really shameful. We don't even compare to them intellectually, our maturity-wise. It really is a symptom of the moral decay of the United States.
Adam, you're absolutely right. They are elite people. Remember when Russia invaded Germany at the end of Second World War? 1.5 million German women were raped by Russian soldiers, and nobody complained about it. It was a collateral damage. It was, well, you lost, you're losers.
That's disgusting.
What can you do? Well, yeah, but that's what the war is all about. The losers have to suffer. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, Adam and Sasha, what are your thoughts? I know that part of your show, Sasha, deals with this, but we brought it up a couple of other times. I've had some guests that have brought it up, but what is the thought about the Chinese involvement in world politics and in a number of other political lanes as well? Because we're talking about what Russia is doing and whether you would be, as president, a supporter of Russia, but would you be sitting down with Xi as well, Mr. Adam, and all along those lines? And what is your thoughts around China? Because every time I turn around, I think I've got a Chinese neighbor and everything. They are coming into our universities and they are definitely buying up property, not just here, but in Africa, Asia, and a number of other places as well. So what is your thoughts around
invasion
of China and our role within a relationship with China?
Well, I'm not an expert. I certainly would welcome into this country all intelligent people who could contribute to our economy and have a moral compass. My view broadly on China, Russia, North Korea is that it's better to try to forge alliances with them and to, as they say, bring your friends close, but your enemies closer. And I think our foreign policy for decades and decades has been rather antagonistic and itself has resulted in atrocities that Americans have committed. Maybe I'm idealistic, but when Trump went to North Korea, I thought that was a good thing.
You know what, Adam, have you ever seen a movie, The Independence Day?
Yes.
Oh, remember when the US president went and there was a creature behind the wall?
Behind the glass, right.
There was a glass wall, right? And he asked, what is it exactly you want?
Yes.
What answer? To kill you.
But there's a difference. There's a difference between that and Independence Day. The United States has the power, and everybody knows we have the power to destroy the world if we want.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't that serve to deter other nations that we view as enemies? Why would we not try to get along with them knowing we have the power to assert our will whenever we would want?
Hey, along those same lines, I'm going to actually drop a atom bomb into this discussion and everything. And actually, Kim gave me this atom bomb, and it's probably going to add to a 15-minute discussion because I know you're not necessarily going to agree with it, Sasha. And we also got to get ready for a Coco show and all along those lines. But there has been some notions of the idea that some of the images that we are seeing coming out of the Middle East might be manufactured and that they might not be actual real pictures and all along those lines. Kim brought this to my attention. There are others that have brought it to my attention as well. So what is your thoughts when there are people that are saying that some of these atrocities that we are seeing may not necessarily be factual and all along those lines? So what is your response to that? And Kim, if you want to explain further, I'm just trying to give a thumbnail of our previous conversation, but it definitely sounds like there has been some folks that are thinking that there might be some media fabrication going on, not just there, but in some of the other wars around the world as well.
Well, Mark, we all know that how AI can manipulate a lot of what we do nowadays. And we've been watching this for quite some time, where you can even take a photo and have it, move and look real now, and have a voice come out of it, just like, the president. So, yes, I was listening to one of the local news stations, more, PNR actually, and they had a professor on there who said he was going out and comparing the photos that they were gaslighting everyone with from the Israel situation, where they were saying, children are being beheaded, and, women, and that he was able to compare these photos to photos that were actually taken many years ago, and they were reusing these photos to gaslight people and say, this is what's happening to us. And then Israel would pass those on to our media, and our media would believe it and use it. Nobody went and did fact checks on these photos. And guess what? You can do fact checks on photos and videos now. And it's real easy. The tool is free, and he was showing us how to do it. But he had already proved that some of the things that were being shown were fake. And he was just, extremely angry because it was giving people absolution to go out and kill other people in retaliation, which we shouldn't be doing anyway. I mean, there's so many innocent people getting killed in this war right now. We have Americans in Gaza. Okay. I was listening to some of their stories where they had been there for almost 30 days until some of them were able to get out. And now they have survivor guilt, right? And they're feeling bad about the people they left behind, but they watched, the homes that they have known their whole lives get destroyed, beautiful, places that they have gone to. People aren't able to live any life right now because Israel's bombing them, and they're getting, everybody's supporting them. And then you've got people supporting Palestine. So, yeah, but I think it was very sick that somebody took pictures from many years ago war and used them to gaslight us. I think if they find out who did that, they should. I'm not even going to say what should happen to them because I'm going to get in trouble. But they should be punished severely.
I'd love to hear Sasha's thoughts around that. The flip side of that is that I had the pleasure yesterday of doing a speech or a talk to some students over at Duke University. We know that so an established and a great university was actually around some of the art community and volunteerism and everything. But when I was at the bus stop, because as many of y'all know, I get around by mass transit, I actually saw a sign that was around Palestinian support and around Palestinian support, and it listed a lot of things that were being done in support of Palestine. And I would be lying, and I'll try to pull up a picture at some point, not on this show, of some of the items that they mentioned, because some of those items were problematic on the other side, because they were talking about some of the things that had happened in support of Palestine, including like some destruction of property, destruction of buses, and even some things that were very much violent oriented. And they were actually praising some of those actions on this sign that I saw. And I think that they were trying to encourage other people to do acts of civil disobedience similar at this particular stop. And there were like 3 of these signs that were up at that particular bus stop. And like I said, I did take a picture of it, and I'll try to send it to you at some point, Sasha, so you can take a look at it and we can talk about it at a later time and all of that nature. Because like I said, it was not what the talk that I was giving about. It was about art and volunteerism. But it was interesting to see that kind of support on a major campus, because Duke is a major Southern campus and all along those lines. But I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts around what Kim said. And like I said, y'all might see me bounce off because I've got to prepare for the other show as well. But I know Kim can handle the ending as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
You're talking to me?
Yes. Sasha and then Adam.
Okay. In order to understand what's happening right now in the media concerning these horrible atrocities in the Middle East, you have to clearly understand what's happened on October 7th. Just one single day. Forget what's happened before that or after that. It's irrelevant completely. But October 7th. What's happened on October 7th, and where all the pictures that are presented by Israel are being generated? they are being generated by Hamas people from their body cams. It's not manufactured somewhere in Thailand or in Ireland or maybe in China. No, it's from their body cams that they were wearing. Because all the purpose of this attack was to create horrific images and spread them around the world to show, okay, here is a great Israel that nobody could do anything about it, and here Hamas, look at what we've done to Israelis, look at how many people we killed, look at how we killed them, look at, okay, they got hostages, but hostages was like almost byproduct. It was not their goal to take hostages, because from public relation ideas to publish pictures and all the images, it's not here nor there. Although there are some images of taking hostages, of course, they are there. Like, for example, a very old woman, a Holocaust survivor, and she was one of the founders of the kibbutz. She was taken a hostage. But again, it's not that horrific. Okay, so you took hostage 82 years old woman. What's the big deal about it? But when you are slut children and you just take their little heads and you put and make a soup out of it, when you beheading women and children, and you're doing that for almost all day, because they started their attack in 6:30 in the morning and they were evicted by Israeli army basically several hours later, around like 5-6 o'clock in the evening, unfortunately. And all these body cams, they were doing images in real time. It was not that they came back to Gaza and then they started to edit and do some work or so on. It was done in real time. And by the way, the Israelis prepared all these materials. They made it one package, which has been shown yesterday for the first time ever in New York. Today is in Toronto, and then it will be shown everywhere, in probably starting next week. As this was done yesterday and today only for correspondents of the major newspapers. More than half of them could not stay until the end. They had to leave. So I think it will become widely available next week. So people who have some reservations or some doubts or whatever else they might have, they will see it for themselves. Thank you.
Well, Sasha, it looks like they got the war that they wanted on October the 7th. You know, when I
what
saw
has
that,
Adams thought about the fake media and people making up the photos?
I don't, there's always going to be a certain amount made up, but most of the stuff you get is.
Well, I suspect that some of it is probably manufactured, but I think intelligent people can probably distinguish. But you know, more broadly speaking, what bothers me about the way that the United States views the world, you know, do you really think that Kim Jong-un is so inherently immoral and that we're morally superior? Do you really think that Vladimir Putin is so morally inferior? No, they're just different. They come from different cultures. They come from different backgrounds and governments. If we don't seem to have that perspective in terms of recognizing cultural difference as a basis to have constructive foreign policy. And I think that that's a problem with our foreign policy. And I don't see it changing unless we recognize that.
But how do we change it? How do we recognize people like Putin and this?
We don't have to, Sasha. I mean,
well, Trump was doing that with North Korea, wasn't he?
Come on, you know.
Reagan did that with Gorbachev, didn't he?
No, we don't have to play into their. We don't have to pander to every Nazi that's out there in the world. That's what the United States is not based on, pandering to dictators and thugs and terrorists. Are you kidding me, Adam? Give me a break. So the thing is, we call it what it is, and it is what it is, you know? And for them to say, oh, poor little me, I grew up in Russia, and poor little me, because I watched Stalin murder 25 million people, that I'm entitled to be a wacko cycle myself. No, you're not. You are what you are, a wacko and a psycho.
And you're part of the problem, which I just described.
We don't have to pander to these people because you're right. One thing you did say, you are right, Adam. The USA, we have the power, baby. We are the big Mahaf, okay? So we don't have to pander to these tiny little countries out there with their little dictatorships. We don't have to pander to Iran. Yeah, so Iran does that. Yeah, we respond. We kick them in the butt. They do it, we'll kick them harder. Go watch the movie Patton. You kick us, we're going to kick you harder.
You've been watching Top Gun again.
I don't embrace that philosophy of
Israel's the same way. Israel goes, look, on October 7th, you got your one shot. You took a hit with the bully. You took a hit from the bully, right? You got the war that you want. The people that live in Gaza City go, oh, we're not going to leave. Guess what? They're all leaving now in droves. Because if they don't leave, we'd rather die there. And guess what? Wish granted, you will die there. Then they start figuring it out. They will die there. So now they're getting their little butts and walking across Gaza City heading south because they realize Israel isn't going to put up with this garbage. Oh, I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to be displaced. Look, you started the fight. They're going to end the fight. And they're going to end the fight like we ended World War II. Boom. 100,000 innocent people died. So
that was a tragedy. What we did,
disgusting.
The Japanese general.
No, it wasn't a tragedy. It was what it was. You don't mess with us. Okay?
Nick, remember that the Japanese generals and admirals who attacked they knew that sooner or later U.S. will defeat them. They had a problem because of the embargo, and they just, it's like a Zugzwang. You go this way, it's really bad. And it goes this way, it's even worse. So they had to do this attack, and yet they knew that there will be consequences, and ultimately Japan will lose. That's exactly what happened.
All that those bombs did is proof.
Hold on. When Hamas attacked on October 7th. So what was the game plan? Did they think that, okay, so we will murder, say, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, 10,000 people? Okay, then at the end of the day, they have to retreat back to Gaza. Here's the Israeli army coming in with tanks and with artillery and with bomber and fighters and all these weapons. And then what? Then comes October 8th. So what Israel is going to do on October 8th, and then October 9th is coming, and then November is coming, and December, and so on. So what was the game plan? What they thought that something happened that they would claim victory, and the only thing was their victory is to, from their body counts, to translate all these horrible images. That's the only thing what they hoped to achieve, and they did achieve it. But now, payback time, baby. It's a
Sasha, they had no game plan. They're like chess players that only see one move in advance. So they see one move. Oh boy, we struck Israel. Oh, look at all the people. Look at the havoc that we created. And then they go along with their buddies. I've hung around with the Libyans before, and they're little nuts. Oh, my buddy and I, we both have guns, and hence we're the most powerful country in the world.
What we did to Libya was horrible.
The Libyans actually thought they could take on the United States. I said, you don't even have a prayer. You're not even be close. So what happens is Hamas got together and they go, we're going to take on Israel. Okay, well, now they got their fight. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to be wiped out. Period. The end. Game over. Full stop. Go on.
I'm afraid it's not only that Hamas will be wiped out. I think all Gaza Strip will be.
I think all Gaza. I think Israel. I think you're right.
Yeah, it will be gone.
Gaza's going to be flattened. It's going to be one cement slab.
When we
remember that
Gaza is going to be called the cement slab. If you saw it, those buildings are horrible anyway. But it's just going to be one cement slab. That'll be it. So once they go, hey, I want to go back home, they're going to go back home to a cement slab. That's it.
Well, they're already saying
and it will be occupied by Israel. Period.
They already said, I've been listening to the Americans who have been slowly making it out, and they said that there's nothing left.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be a cement slab.
What
a surprise.
When we
a bloody surprise.
Nick,
I am so surprised I attack Israel and they flatten us. What a surprise.
Well, Nick, we didn't go blow up every country when 9/11 happened. You know what?
They're not blowing up every
did.
country. They're blowing
Yes,
up
we did.
a tiny
No,
little
they
strip
are
of land.
blowing
100,000
a
Iraqis died
society.
because of that moron George W. Bush. And when we dropped the atomic bomb in Japan, when we went into Vietnam, when we went into the second Iraq War, we showed we're morally superior to no one. I don't think I'm morally superior to Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, or Muammar Gaddafi. Until we recognize that it's a matter of culture and background, we're not going to have a constructive foreign policy. And Nick's policy of, divide and conquer will remain, and it's going to lead to the destruction of the United States in the long run.
No, my policy is real simple, Adam. Might makes right, and we have the might. We are right.
Fair enough.
Real simple. And by the way, that's been the policy of victorious countries forever. So it's not me just making it up. Go look at all of history.
Nick,
Might
what
makes right,
is a
and we
golden
have the
rule?
might. We are right. Go on.
What is
Go
a
on.
golden rule, The golden rule, one who has gold rules.
One who has gold makes the
That's
rules. You're
Nick's
right.
rule.
And our country, we have the might, and we are right. And frankly, I don't give a rat's rear what the other countries say. Too bad.
Absolutely.
So
The only
sad,
thing
too
is,
bad.
I would urge, when you have power, when you have might, you have to use it. Otherwise, there will be a catastrophe, and then it will be much more difficult to use. So when you have it, use it. Okay?
Yeah, and I think we're about using out of time because we're.
And we are out of time.
So,
And
out of time.
Thank you.
thank you very
About
much.
might,
And
we're
we'll
about
see
to
you
be
guys
mightily
Tuesday.
dismissed here.
Don't forget to thank a veteran. It is Veterans Day on Saturday. Go hug a veteran, take them out to lunch, buy them a drink, but appreciate everything that they have done for us in every country, because they have made certain that we all have a safe home and place to be in.
I hope
They
somebody
show
will
might, which makes us right. And with that, we'll see.
will invite Biden for lunch. You think Biden is a First World War or something, no?
I'll buy him lunch.
I just hope he stays awake.